Commander Raylan Thorne felt the deck plates jump under his boots. The Falcon 4 had struck unseen debris while crossing the storm-rich skies of Varelia Prime, and now alarms howled around him.
Lightning.
Lightning flashed outside, turning the cockpit an angry white. The ship rolled, one engine dead, altitude falling fast. Raylan kept his voice calm as he spoke, the crash drill to himself. He feathered the remaining thrusters, searching for any open ground. But the jungle below was a green ocean of towering trees. A narrow clearing slid across the forward screen. It was his only chance. Eased the nose forward and prayed the landing gear would hold. The Falcon slammed through branches, shedding metal and leaves. With a final groan, it skidded across mud and stopped against a huge root. Smoke filled the air. Raylan unstrapped, checked his limbs, and grabbed the emergency pack. Blood trickled from a cut near his brow, but pain could wait. Outside, rain hissed on the broken hull. Raylan set the portable beacon to broadcast and stepped into the clearing. A faint, rapid chirping reached his ears, soft but urgent, like frightened songbirds. It came from deeper in the forest. He paused. No human survivors were with him, so who was calling? Curiosity and training pulled him on. He pushed aside broad leaves glowing with bioluminescent dots, and soon found a second crash site. A sleek silver pod lay split open against a fallen log. Its surface carried the wing instar's crest of the Zinthari Empire. Inside, 6 small Zinthari younglings clung to damaged seats. Their emerald shells glistened with moisture, and sapphire eyes widened at the sight of the human. Raylan's translator badge clicked and offered a shaky rendition of their cries. Help, dark, afraid. He spoke slowly.
I am Raylan.
I will protect you. The children watched his hands, saw no weapon, and their trembling eased. He cut away twisted straps and lifted them out one by one. They were light as paper, their tiny winglets fluttering in panic. A deep roar rumbled. Behind him, from the shadows emerged a Varkal, a native predator with moss-green scales and 4 powerful arms. Its jaw opened, rows of glassy teeth catching the stormlight. Raylan had only a flare pistol. He raised it and fired. The flare burst above the beast, showering sparks and thunder. Startled, the Varkal hissed and vanished between trees. Knew it could return once the flash burned out. He loaded 2 of the smallest into a rescue sling on his back, carried another in each arm, and urged the last pair to cling to his belt loops. Together they hurried away from both wrecks. Branches slapped at Raylan's face. Mud sucked at his boots, yet he kept moving. Driven by the sound of the youngling's tiny breaths near his ears, he found a rocky shelf under an overhang and guided. The group beneath it, vines hung down like curtains, hiding them from sight. Safe for the moment, he tended scrapes with the med kit, shared water purifiers, and unwrapped protein bars. The children nibbled, surprised by the sweet taste. Of them, a bold youngster named Keeley tapped Raylan's sleeve and asked, "Through the badge, why help us?" "Because you need help," Raylan answered, keeping the words simple. "That is enough." The storm blocked his beacon, so he studied his wrist map. 10 kilometers west stood an old survey station with a stronger radio, if he could reach it. Fleets from Earth and the Zenthari court would hear. He explained the route, using sticks to draw in damp soil. Keeley traced the line with a small claw and chirped approval. Night dropped fast. Alien insects sang in strange harmonies. Raylan set short perimeter alarms made from foil strips and glow sticks basic, but better than nothing. He hardly slept. Each time thunder boomed, he checked the children, finding their eyes on him. Trusting at gray dawn, they started the trek. The forest floor steamed. Luminescent fungus lit their path under giant ferns. Every hour Raylan rested, shared water, and taught the children to stay low and quiet. They copied his hand signs perfectly. Fear slowly changed to teamwork. Near midday, they reached a clear ridge. From there, Raylan saw smoke spiraling in the distance, black, oily, and wrong. Suddenly, 2 crimson-painted gunships sliced through. A break in the clouds. They carried the skull mark of a slaver clan known for ransom raids. Raylan's gut tightened. Rescue might come, but danger would arrive first. He led the children off the ridge and into a maze of thorn vines. Scratches stung his arms, yet the cover hid their heat signatures. While they waited, he whispered a promise. I will not let them take you. The children answered with a word in their own tongue, Terashen, meaning big shield. Raylan felt the weight of the name settle on his heart. When the slaver scouts passed overhead without noticing, Raylan motioned forward. The journey to the survey station had become a race, but there was still hope. He checked the sky, adjusted the straps on his living cargo, and moved into the trees once more. 40 hours of walking lay ahead, yet Raylan walked as if the distance were nothing at all, because 6 small lives depended on every step he took, far above. Aboard a distant flagship, Empress Velashera listened to a broken distress relay and learned of a lone human defending her children. She ordered her fleet to Varelia Prime at once, curiosity and concern burning within her regal heart. Salvation or something greater was already on its way. Raylan woke before the first light touched the sky. A cold mist rolled through the trees, quiet and thick. He looked around their little camp under the rocky overhang. The 6 Anthari younglings slept curled close to each other, their small winglets twitching softly. He smiled at the peaceful sight. But peace, he knew, never lasted long in a wild place like Varelia Prime. Raylan packed their supplies quietly. He cleaned the scratches on his arms and rechecked the energy cells on. His emergency beacon still no signal getting out. The storm had passed, but the thick jungle canopy still blocked any clear transmission. He had to reach the old survey station. It was the only way to call for help. Keely stirred and opened her bright sapphire eyes.
Ow.
She blinked at him and sat. Up we go? She asked in her chirpy voice. Yes, little one. Time to move, Raylan said gently. He helped the others wake and eat a small breakfast: dried fruit, protein chips, and filtered rainwater. The youngest one, Mela, clung to his sleeve the whole time. She had not spoken a word since the crash, but her eyes followed Raylan wherever he went. They began their journey again, walking in single file. Raylan took the lead, machete in hand, slicing away vines and strange moss that clung to their clothes. The jungle was alive with color and sound. Strange birds cawed above them. Insects the size of coins buzzed past. Around noon, Raylan spotted movement in the trees ahead. He stopped, motioned for silence, and crouched. The younglings obeyed quickly, dropping behind a fallen log. Through his visor, Raylan zoomed in and saw a dark shape, a slaver scout drone, hovering just above the canopy. Its red eye blinked slowly, scanning the area for heat signatures. Raylan cursed under his breath. They're hunting. The drone moved on, but Raylan knew the danger was growing. The slavers must have picked up the younglings' distress beacon earlier. They didn't care who the children belonged to, only that they were valuable. The Xanthari Empire would pay anything to get them back. Raylan led the group deeper into the jungle, away from the ridgeline. He chose a longer, but safer path. The air grew humid and heavy, sweat rolled down his back, and the children grew tired. Later, as the sun began to lower, they came across a dry stream bed filled with smooth stones. Raylan motioned for the younglings to rest while he checked the area. He didn't get far. A loud crack split the air. A net, thrown from a hidden launcher, snapped around him and dragged him off his feet. He hit the ground hard. The wind knocked from his chest. From behind the trees, two slaver scouts stepped out. They wore patchwork armor and ugly metal masks. One laughed and raised a shock stick. Human, what's this? Not your kind of place, friend? The slaver said. Raylan didn't answer. He twisted. In the net, trying to free his hand, the slavers moved closer. But they forgot about the children. A sharp whistle rang out Keely's signal. The younglings sprang from their hiding spot, pelting the slavers with sharp stones and buzzing loudly. With their wings? It wasn't enough to hurt the slavers, but it was enough to distract them. Raylan used the moment to roll, grab a sharp rock, and cut through the net. He jumped to his feet, snatched the shock stick, and used it on the first slaver. Sparks flew, and the man dropped. The second slaver turned to Latraylan, punched him hard, and knocked him cold. Breathing heavily, Raylan looked around. The youngling stood frozen, eyes wide. Keely took a small step forward. You okay? Raylan nodded. Thanks to you. That was brave. They moved quickly after that. Raylan took what gear he could from the slavers' energy packs, a small blaster, and a locator tablet. The map showed 2 more patrols in the area, both closing in. They know where we are, Raylan said. We have to move faster now. That night, they camped in the hollow of a giant root system. Raylan set up new alarms, tiny pieces of metal that would chime if stepped on. He gave each child a glowing ring for their wrist to help keep them visible in the dark. As they sat around a tiny heatstone, Raylan taught them simple survival skills: how to tie knots, how to listen for footsteps in the forest, how to find safe water. The children watched closely and copied every move. They are learning fast, he thought. Keely sat beside him, studying the stars through a hole in the trees. You fight like soldier, she said. Raylan smiled. Used to be, but now I protect. Why? She asked again, softly. Raylan looked at her, then at the others curled up around the heatstone. Because someone has to, and no one else came. That night, as the jungle sang and danger crept ever closer, the children slept without fear for their protector. The strange and strong human had proven himself not just a survivor, but a shield against the dark. And somewhere, deep in space, the Xanthari Empress stared at a growing map of signals and battle reports from Virelia Prime. Her scouts had confirmed the slaver. Presence and the human who defied them. She leaned forward, antennae raised, and gave a single order. Find him. Bring him to me. The hunt for both the children and the man who guarded them was far from over. The forest of Virelia Prime grew thicker with every step. Tall trees blocked the sky, and the air smelled like wet leaves and old bark. Raylan Thorne wiped the sweat from his face as he guided the 6 Xanthari younglings across a narrow log bridge. Below them, dark water moved slowly, hiding creatures that waited with silent hunger. Careful, Raylan said, holding out his hand. Keely, the boldest of the group, crossed first, her small clawed feet steady. The others followed, moving one by one until they all reached the far side. Raylan crossed last, always staying behind to protect them. They had been traveling for 2 more days since the slaver attack. Sleep was short and rest was rare. Raylan's body ached, but he never showed. The children, depended on him. That was all that mattered. They were now only 5 kilometers from the old survey station, a place Raylan hoped still had power and a strong enough signal to call for help. He looked up at the sky through a gap in the trees. Just a little more, he whispered to himself. Suddenly the forest grew quiet. No birds, no insects. Even the wind stopped. Raylan froze. Down. He hissed. The younglings dropped to the ground without a sound, hiding under thick roots and leaves. Raylan scanned. The tree's eyes sharp. A red light blinked far above. Scout drone. Smaller than the last one, but faster. Its long lens moved from side to side, searching for heat. Raylan quickly grabbed a pack of heat flares. He tossed one far to the left. It sparked and gave off bright red heat. The drone turned and followed the false signal. Go, Raylan said. They moved fast, climbing over rocks and slipping between trees. The children didn't ask questions. They just followed. After 2 hours, they stopped by a small cave hidden behind vines. Raylan crawled in first to make sure it was safe, then waved them inside. The children sat quietly while Raylan opened a flat silver tablet he took from the fallen slavers. It showed a map and glowing red dots. Each dot was a slaver patrol. 3 were close to close. Raylan frowned. They're getting better at tracking. Keely peeked over his shoulder. How far now? 3 kilometers, Raylan said. But we need to move fast and quiet. No sounds, no fire, no light. Keely nodded and repeated his words to the others in their own tongue. They understood before. Leaving the cave, Raylan handed out soft shoes made from bark and fabric to muffle their steps. The children smiled. They were learning more every day. That night, they moved like shadows. Raylan used mud to cover their body heat. He wrapped leaves around his arms and legs to blend with the forest. The children did the same, copying him exactly. They passed under fallen logs, climbed slippery hills, and crawled through thick bushes. At one point, Raylan stopped and raised his hand. Everyone dropped flat. A slaver patrol walked just 30 meters away. 2 armed scouts with motion detectors. Raylan held his breath, so did the children. The patrol passed without seeing them. Only after 5 long minutes did Raylan give the sign to move again. At sunrise, they saw the tower it stood. Broken but proud, an old human-built survey station, overgrown with vines and rusted metal. One dish still pointed at the sky. Raylan checked the area, then waved the children forward. They entered the station through a side hatch. Inside, it smelled of dust and old circuits. Panels blinked weakly. Single solar cell on the roof still worked just enough to power the console. Raylan sat at the control desk and opened the comms panel. It sparked to life. He typed quickly, fingers flying across the keyboard. Distress signal, human commander Raylan Thorne's Xanthari younglings. Survived shuttle crash under attack by slavers location. Virilia Prime, urgent evac. A request, press send. The signal shot out into space. A blinking light confirmed it was repeating every 2 minutes. Raylan leaned back, sighing in relief. "We did it," he said. Keeley stood beside him, eyes wide. "Now help comes." Raylan nodded. "Yes, they'll come. I hope." But as he looked out the cracked window, he saw a dark shape in the trees. Slaver scout had seen them. Raylan stood quickly. Everyone down. Blaster shots hit the wall. Sparks flew. Raylan pulled out the stolen blaster and fired back. The children crawled behind old storage crates. More shots came. The scout was calling others. Raylan activated the station's shield. Field a weak energy bubble meant for storms, not battles, but it would buy time. Keeley crawled to him. "What now?" Raylan looked at her. Then he smiled. "Now we hold. Just a little longer." He took position near the door, ready to fight. Far above in the Royal Star Cruiser, Empress Velashara received the distress signal. She stood from her throne and pointed at the map. "To Varelia. Now I will go myself." Her advisors gasped. An Empress had not entered a battlefield in generations, but Velashara's voice was calm. "That human protected our children. I will protect him." Her ship turned toward the wild planet below. The jungle would soon witness something rare, an Empress and a protector standing together. And for the first time in her life, Empress Velashara felt something she'd never expected: hope in a human heart. The jungle shook with the sound of gunfire. Blaster beams sizzled past the broken walls of the old survey station. Smoke filled the air, and Raylan Thorne fired from behind a pile of metal crates, holding off the slaver scouts. His arms ached, and the blaster grew hot in his hands. Behind him, the 6 Xanthari younglings crouched low, eyes wide with fear. They didn't cry or scream. They trusted him. That gave Raylan strength. One of the scouts shouted, "Surrender. The children human. No one's coming to save you." Raylan didn't answer. He fired again, hitting the scout's cover. Sparks flew. The slavers were getting closer. Shield around the station flickered, its power almost gone. Raylan knew he couldn't hold them much longer. But he also knew something the slavers didn't help was coming. Far above, cutting through the clouds, a Xanthari royal cruiser descended, its wings spread wide, glowing with soft blue light. Inside stood Empress Velashara, leader of the Xanthari Empire. Her long emerald body was wrapped in a royal sash of deep silver. Her antennae twitched with tension. She had seen the footage human commander Raylan Thorne risking his life for her younglings. She had heard their voices calling him Tarashan, Big Shield, and now she had come to see the truth for herself. "Prepare the Royal Guard," she commanded. "We land within the hour." The ship lowered through clouds and wind, heading straight for the signal coming from the old station. Back on the ground, Raylan ducked as another blast hit the wall behind him. One more shot, and the shield would fail. He looked at the children. Keeley held Mela close, whispering calming words in their own soft language. The others stayed close, trusting their protector. Raylan smiled, though his face was dirty and tired. "You're doing good, little ones," he said. "Almost there." La 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 la. Suddenly the roof shook. A loud hum filled the air. Everyone looked up. Outside, a beam of blue light shot down from the clouds. It struck the ground just outside the station and, in that light, tall armored figures appeared. The Zenthari royal guard had arrived. The slavers turned, too late. The guards moved fast, their armor shining, weapons silent but deadly. Within seconds, the slaver scouts were captured, tied, and taken away. Raylan stood slowly, lowering his blaster. His legs shook with relief. A new sound came from above, the gentle hum of a hovercar. It landed just outside the broken wall. From it stepped the tallest Zenthari Raylan had ever seen. Her shell was polished and glowing. Her eyes were sharp like twin stars. The younglings gasped. "Empress," they cried, bowing low. Raylan watched as the royal figure stepped forward. She moved with grace and power, but her eyes were not cold. They were curious. She looked at him as if trying to see inside his heart. "You are Raylan Thorn," she said, her voice smooth and clear. "Yes, your majesty," he replied, bowing awkwardly. "I did what I had to. You saved our children," she said, walking closer. "You fought slavers, crossed a deadly forest alone, and you did not run." Raylan gave a tired smile. "Well, they needed someone." The Empress looked at the younglings. They gathered around Raylan, holding his arms and legs. Even Mela now smiled, feeling safe. The Empress knelt to their level. "Tell me, little ones, is this the human who carried you through the wild?" "Yes," Keely chirped. "He gave food, made fire, fought beasts." "He made us safe," Mela said softly. The Empress stood, looking back at Raylan. "Do you know what that name means?" He shook his head. "It means shield that does not break. It is not a name we give easily." She walked forward again, close enough for her antennae to brush his shoulder. "You are more than a soldier. You are brave, loyal, and kind." Raylan said nothing. He didn't feel like a hero. He just did what anyone should have done. But then the Empress said something that shocked even her guards. "I declare you my chosen mate." The forest fell silent. Even the wind stopped. Raylan blinked. "Wait, what?" "Among the Zenthari, to choose a mate is not only for union, it is a bond of deep trust and equal strength," the Empress explained. "It is rare. I see something in you no other leader has shown me in years." Raylan stepped back, confused. I'm just a man, a pilot. I'm not royalty. I'm not special." "You are special to them," she said, pointing to the younglings. "And now you are special to me. Not for power, but for heart." The royal guards exchanged surprised glances, but none spoke against her. Raylan looked at the children. Their eyes begged him to stay. He thought of Earthov. Silence, rules, and orders. Then he looked at Velishara, tall and wise, offering not a crown, but a partnership. "Do I have a choice?" he asked. "Of course," she said. "But no, this if you stay, you will not serve me. You will stand beside me." Raylan took a long breath. He didn't know what the future held, but in this moment, he knew one thing. He belonged with them. "Ah, all right, your majesty," he said, smiling. "Let's see where this goes." And so, a tired human and a royal empress stood together in the ruins of a jungle station, surrounded by children who had been saved us. But by the kind of courage that crosses stars, far away, the stars watched. And somewhere fate smiled. 2 days had passed since the battle at the old survey station. The jungle behind them was quiet now. The slavers had been captured or chased off. The children were safe at last. Commander Raylan Thorn now stood at the gates of the Zenthari capital hive, a giant living structure that rose like a crystal mountain under the pale sky. Its walls were smooth and glowing, shaped by generations of careful design. He had never seen anything like it. Everything on Earth was made of steel and wires, but this place, it felt alive. The younglings walked beside him, no longer afraid. They wore clean clothes made of soft woven silk, and each one carried a small flower badge, a symbol of royal protection. Keely held Raylan's hand proudly. Mela smiled up at him shyly. To them, he was still Tarushan, their big shield. As they entered the main hall, golden light poured from the high ceilings. Thousands of Zenthari citizens watched from above, their eyes glowing with curiosity and respect. Raylan could feel their gaze. He had been through many tough missions before, but standing here made his heart beat faster than any battlefield. At the end of the hall stood Empress Velashera, dressed in a gown of flowing light weave. Her antennae moved slowly, her eyes calm and thoughtful. She stepped forward as the guards announced, Raylan Thorn, Human Commander, Guardian of the Younglings, Hero of Varelia Prime. Raylan took a deep breath. He walked forward, stopping just in front of the Empress. She looked at him for a long moment, then raised her hand. In the history of the Zenthari, she said, her voice strong and clear, no outsider has ever carried our young through danger. No stranger has ever stood alone to protect them from enemies. Raylan Thorn, you have shown us that strength is not only in body, but in heart. The crowd gave a soft sound of agreement like wind chimes echoing through the hall. Raylan nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I had to do. Velashara stepped closer. And that is why it matters. You acted without asking for reward. You fought without demand for praise. That is rare in any world. She turned to the people. I told you this man is my chosen mate. Some of you questioned that. Some of you feared it. But I ask you, what is royalty without honor? What is leadership without courage? Zenthari citizens murmured again, this time louder. Some nodded. Some clapped their claws softly together in respect. Raylan looked around, unsure what to say. I'm just a man, trying to do what's right, he said quietly. Velashara looked at him warmly. That is exactly what we need. She handed him a small glowing crystal. This is the symbol of bond. You are not bound by duty, only by choice. Will you stand beside me, not as a servant, but as a partner? As one who helps shape the future? Raylan took the crystal. It felt warm in his hand, looked at the Empress. Then at the younglings, his little team. He remembered the rain, the mud, the fear in their eyes, and how it all changed to trust. We'll stand with you, Raylan said, not because of a title, because you care, because I believe we can make something better together. The crowd erupted in a sound like music. It's not loud or wild, but full of beauty. The Empress nodded once, pleased. From that moment, Raylan was no longer just a visitor. He became an honored protector of the Zenthari Empire. Later that day, Raylan stood on a high balcony, looking over the glowing city. Tall towers of crystal reached to the sky. Soft green lights moved between them like stars flowing in rivers. The Empress joined him. You seem thoughtful, she said. Raylan chuckled, thinking about how a simple rescue mission turned into all of this. Velashara smiled. Sometimes the stars choose strange paths. Do you think people will accept me? He asked. Some already have, she said, pointing to a group of younglings playing below. The rest will follow when they see your heart. Raylan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, if I'm going to be part of this world, I want to help more than just politics. I want to build things. Schools. Safer paths through wild planets. Better systems to protect younglings human and Zenthari. Velashara's eyes brightened. That is why I chose you, not for your power, but for your purpose. He looked at her with respect. Then let's begin. Below them, life moved. Forward. The slavers had been defeated, but the galaxy still had many dangers. Still, for the first time, hope had a new face, a human face. And in that moment, Empress and her protector began a partnership that would change more than one world. Because sometimes, the smallest act, like carrying frightened children through the dark, can light the way for empires. And sometimes, a man with no crown becomes the strongest pillar a kingdom has ever known. A new sun rose over the crystal towers of the Zenthari capital. The city glowed like a peaceful dream. Birds with golden feathers flew in the sky, and rivers of light flowed between tall buildings. Life was calm now, but change was growing in the hearts of many. Commander Raylan Thorn stood on the central sky platform. wearing a simple black suit with a silver sash across his chest, the symbol of peace. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a protector, a builder, and now, symbol of unity between two very different worlds. Beside him stood Empress Velashara, tall and regal in her royal gown. Her presence was calm and wise, but today there was a soft glow in her eyes. She was proud not just of her people, but of the future she had chosen. Raylan looked over the platform's edge. Below, thousands of citizens had gathered, Zenthari of every age, and not just them, humans had come too. Scientists, ambassadors, workers, and even children from Earth now walked among the Zenthari. What once seemed impossible was now reality. In the center of the crowd stood the 6 younglings Raylan had rescued. Keely waved up at him, wearing her own sash of honor. Mela stood beside her, holding a small flag that showed both the Earth and Zenthari symbols. Raylan smiled. He remembered every moment with them. The jungle, the storm, the slavers, the fear. And he remembered how their small hands had held onto his sleeves, trusting him with their lives. Velashara spoke quietly beside him. Do you ever regret it, Raylan, staying here? Raylan shook his head. Not once. I didn't plan for this, but found something here. Purpose. People who believe in more than just power. She nodded. They believe in you. They call you the Starshield. Now Raylan laughed gently. I've been called worse. Below a bell rang. It was time. The platform floated forward, rising above the crowd. Raylan stepped up and spoke into the translator Crystal, his voice strong and steady. Citizens of Zenthari and visitors from Earth, I stand before you not as a king, not as a commander, but as a man who learned something in the darkest part of the jungle, that we are stronger together. The crowd listened in silence. I am not one of you by blood, but I am with you by choice. I have seen your younglings laugh, cry, and grow. I have fought beside your warriors and stood with your Empress. I have seen your hearts and, you have? Send mine. Soft humming came from the crowd, a Zenthari sound of deep respect. Velashara stepped forward. From this day forward, the Zenthari Empire will open its hands to humanity. We will share knowledge, protection, and peace. Let our unity be a bridge between stars, not a wall. As her words ended, a beam of white light rose into the sky. It was a signal, a message sent across galaxies, welcoming Earth into a new alliance. Raylan looked at the younglings again. They were cheering, hugging each other. Keely stood tall and shouted proudly, Tarushan. That one word echoed across the plaza. Raylan felt emotion rise in his chest. Not pride, not fame. Something deeper, the quiet feeling that comes when you know you did the right thing. Even when it was hard. Later that evening, Raylan and Velashara walked through the royal garden. Lanterns floated above the trees, glowing like fireflies. You've done more than protect, Velashara said softly. You've helped us grow. I just carried them to safety, Raylan replied. The rest. It all happened because we believed in each other. Velashara paused. You have a choice, Raylan. You may stay by my side forever or return to your home world and help guide others from there. Raylan looked at the stars above. Earth was far away. He missed the oceans, the forests, the old songs of his childhood. But this place had become a part of him too. The people, the children, her, I think. My home is here now, he said at last. But I want to build a path between both worlds. Let others walk it after me. Velashara smiled. Then you shall be our first ambassador of hearts. The title wasn't military nor royal. It was something new, something only Raylan Thorne could carry. He held out his hand, and she took it. Not as Empress to servant, but as equals. In the weeks that followed, new ships flew between Earth and Zenthari space. Schools were built, languages were shared, families mixed. Younglings from both species learned side by side. The galaxy was still full of danger, but a single act of kindness had planted a seed. And from that seed, a future had begun to grow, one where humans were not feared, but welcomed. Where one man's courage became a story told not in books, but in lives changed. And somewhere in the garden, under the starlight, The younglings who once clung to survival now danced, laughed, and flew free at last. Raylan watched them from a bench, tired but happy. He had carried them through the storm. Now they soared on their own, and that, he thought, was the real victory.